Gaming laptops are a pretty crowded market, especially at this sort of premium high-end range, so why would you ever buy this one? Well, because it's quite frankly amazing. Let me tell you why. This is the Acer Triton 500 with an RTX 2060, i7-8750H, 16 gigs of RAM, and a 512GB NVMe SSD. Now you can actually equip it with an RTX 2080 Max-Q if you prefer, but the 2060 is where I'd put my money. You can also get it with 32 gigs of RAM with the 2080 model, but again, unless you're really pushing content creation, this is the spec that I would recommend. Performance-wise, this thing will happily crunch through basically any game you throw at it, even on ultra settings, and even at high frame rates because of the 144Hz display it comes equipped with. Don't just take my word for it though, let's take a look at the benchmark results. Starting off with 3D Mark Firestrike, we have a rather impressive score of 13,571. You can check out 3D Mark's website to see how this compares to other laptops, but suffice to say it's pretty decent. In Battlefield 5 on ultra settings, we're looking at 75 FPS. This is with DirectX 12 and the 99% minimums are 53 FPS, so very respectable here. Testing on Sanok with PUBG, again on ultra settings, we're looking at 95 FPS average, which is great, and a reasonable minimum of 57 and a great maximum of 155 as well. Fortnite is a little bit higher, again on epic settings at 118 FPS average, with a fairly similar minimum of 62 and a good maximum of 139 as well. And the newest game on this list, Apex Legends, averaged 94 FPS with basically everything maxed out. Again at 68 FPS minimum and 126 maximum, so again very playable frame rates, especially on that higher refresh rate display. Now speaking of the display, it's a 1080p 144Hz panel, which is actually rather crisp to look at. Colors are rather nice, although in terms of accuracy, testing with my Spider 5, we're looking at only about 94% of the sRGB spectrum by volume, so not the best, not for color sensitive work, but very beautiful to look at in person. Viewing angles are also great, especially side to side, which is really the most important one when it comes to a laptop, because obviously you've got the tilt of the screen, and this is really a fantastic shout for the movie in bed watching experience, so definitely recommended there. The panel is a little slow with between 5 and 10 milliseconds of black to white response time, but it's certainly nothing you would notice, and certainly something that I didn't notice while playing games on it, which was actually a very nice experience too. The rest of the usability stuff is also pretty great. The keyboard is actually one of the better keyboards in a laptop keyboard, and it's actually something that I don't really have too many bad things to say about, which is kind of new for me, but it's relatively tactile, although not fake tactile, which is really a kind of key point here, and it's something that I could see myself getting used to pretty quickly and pretty easily, so big thumbs up there. The trackpad is also pretty great, decent enough palm rejection and your usual good tracking and gestures and stuff like that. So again, it's a very good usability experience. In terms of I/O, you've also got a pretty decent set. You have Thunderbolt 3, which is quite an important one in these sorts of laptops, and that is in the standard USB-C housing, as well as also 3 USB 3 ports and HDMI mini display port, gigabit Ethernet and DC in, as well as headphone and microphone jacks as well. It's also crazy thin. This normally means that you have a very hot, very loud gaming laptop, especially while playing games, but this one is, again, a very big surprise to me, but I'm very, very impressed. Especially while playing games, you really didn't notice the fan noise at all, especially if you were using the speakers, which are okay. They're not the best in the world, but they'll pass. But I didn't notice the fan noise, which is a pretty big claim considering that most gaming laptops sound like jet engines taking off. Temperature-wise, especially on the GPU side of things, they actually have 2 fans in there and a whole load of heatsink to keep the RTX 2060 cool, and they did just that. It stayed at below 75 degrees Celsius even when overclocked through their software, so that is incredibly impressive. The CPU really tends to, especially with this style of like 8750H CPUs, tend to boost as much as they can and then thermally throttle and then kind of sit themselves at a more reasonable clock. So in this case, it was sitting mostly around about 4 GHz, although occasionally thermally throttling down, and it was sitting at around 80 to 90 degrees Celsius with a peak of actually 97 degrees Celsius. Speaking of gaming, this was, as I mentioned, a fantastic experience. The 140Hz display and the great power that that this has as well really work very well together to give a smooth and enjoyable experience that I don't think you would have any problems with, even in the relative future. So I've rambled on enough about how amazing this laptop is. There's got to be something wrong with it, right? Well, yes, I've got a couple of main gripes here. The first one is that it only comes with a 512GB NVMe SSD and no hard drive. Most of the other laptops in this sort of price range would give you a significant amount more storage in this, and that's a bit of a problem, especially considering that upgrading it is a pain because they've used not only Torx screws, which is a lot less common to have in your average screwdriver set, but also if you want to upgrade anything like the RAM or the SSD, then you're going to have to completely disassemble it and bring the entire motherboard out rather than having it, say, flipped around and be more easily accessible. Now, to give them credit, the design that they've gone for here means that basically no heat passes through to the top, and it's actually relatively cool on the bottom as well, mostly thanks to the massive amounts of heatsink they have under there, so it's a bit of a trade-off, but it is a little bit of an annoying one. And my final gripe is with the price. This is an £1,800+ laptop, and of course if you go for the 2080 one, that's more like £2,000. That's not completely crazy in terms of the gaming laptop world. There are plenty more expensive options, but when you're looking at £1,800-ish for, and I say this quite lightly, only an RTX 2060 and only 512 gigs of storage, it seems like a little bit of an unfair deal. It especially looks like that when you compare it to something like the Recoil RTX from PC Specialist, which has the exact same spec, except for it does come with a 1TB hard drive and is £400 cheaper. Also has the same performance too. With that said though, if you want one of the best build quality, best user experience laptops with great performance, a beautiful to look at display, and as I said, just a really nice overall experience with it, then this is definitely the one to pick up, especially if you do actually have £1,800 to spend on a laptop. If, to answer the question I would ask in all of these videos, would I put this on my desk? If I had £1,800 to spend on a gaming laptop, I think I would. This is possibly one of the best laptops I've reviewed in terms of user experience, and it really does a very good job of convincing you that the massive hole left in your pocket is worth it when actually using it. Now with that said, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Is this a laptop you're interested in picking up, or is this something way out of your price range? You're looking for something that's a little bit lower value, or maybe even you want something that's a little bit higher end? Let me know in the comments down below. And of course, if you want to check out the laptop or check out pricing when and where you watch this, because it does vary and the prices I've quoted here are in the UK at the time of filming, then take a look at the link in the description down below. That'll take you to your local Amazon store where you can see all of that information. You can also support the channel by either hitting that subscribe button and hitting that bell notification icon for more videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or you can check out the rest of the links down there too. There's Amazon Overclocked UK affiliate links, which don't cost you anything to use, but massively help me out when you do use them. You can check out Patreon if you want to get cool rewards and support me directly too, or you can check out hoodies or t-shirts like this one, or a load of other designs as well. There's also a lot of other stuff like private internet access, which is great and cheap VPN, or Humble Bundle, which gives you cheap games and supports charities too. And of course, you can check out some other videos over there if you want to keep watching. Otherwise, that's pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed it. If you've got any questions, leave those in the comments down below, and we'll see you all in the next video.